Welcome to NatureBack. Today my guest is Mats Larsson. Hey Mats,
Hey, Tarmo. Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit, what are you doing on your daily job?
Well, I'm working as a consultant in various projects, mostly publicly financed via EU programs or national financing bodies,
And the,
investigating the amount of resources that will be needed in order to change transportation systems to electric vehicles and the global economy to a circular economy.
mm, and a lot of it is related to energy, right?
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Last year, when I looked at the energy statistics for last year, it did not look in any way good. I mean, I think we saw again the coal and oil consumption going up, and even though we are seeing the kind of renewable energy usage growing, not growing as fast as the old fossil fuels. How would you describe the today's situation in the kind of the overall energy picture?
No, that's true. The growth of electric vehicles is still well, it's rapid, but it's growing from a low um, point, and
Hmm.
we still only have 3% electric cars in the EU, and less than that in terms of electric trucks and buses. So, and a lot of those vehicles are hybrid vehicles that run both on fossil fuels and on electricity. So we can't expect to see so rapid growth in or a rapid reduction in the use of fossil fuels yet. It will come inevitably if we continue to build the fleets of electric vehicles as we are doing today. But the decline in the use of fossil fuels has not started yet. It's still expanding due to increasing transportation needs and transportation activities.
Mm. But the electric vehicles, how big? I mean, looking at the global picture, how big a game are electric vehicles? Every now and then, hear something like it's like 2% of the global emissions. It doesn't really matter, I. It seems to me that from the kind of consumer perspective, we talk about them quite a lot, but on a bigger perspective, do they actually matter that much?
Not yet, I'd say, but transportation represents a fairly big share of emissions of carbon dioxide, I think, in the area of 25-30% globally. So it's, well, once electric vehicle transportation increases to a level where it takes a significant share of all transportation, it can reduce uh, carbon dioxide emissions. But that's provided that we produce the electricity in a uh, sustainable way.
Exactly, that it's done by renewables, and we're not, switching off new coal plants to create electricity for our electric vehicles, right?
Yes.
What about the kind of the I don't know, resilience question? In Europe, we all kind of on a regular basis come up with a challenge that if all the batteries are coming from China, how the end will we survive in this game?
Yes, that is a problem because we are, with this change, we are becoming increasingly dependent on China and Chinese supplies of different kinds. And the faster we run this, drive this change forward, the more dependent we are likely to become on China because we will not be able to build our own supply chains for batteries and electric motors and many other things. So both in terms of raw materials and in terms of components, parts, we are likely to become increasingly dependent on China, and more so the faster we run the change
Mm.
process.
I mean, we need to run it faster than we are running it today. So, is there any way out? I mean,
Yes, There is, but it's about money and investment. So if we want to become less dependent on China, we need to invest. Well, the EU needs to invest much more in terms of in these different fields, and we also need to run um, business development in these sectors in a much more targeted way than we are doing at present. Like it, well, targeted financing in the way that the U.S. government did in the Apollo program, for example, and in other space programs, where they have where they well in a competitive process, they found the best investors or the best suppliers of that could develop different types of technologies and solutions, and then they financed um, um, the growth, the development and growth of these suppliers in a very generous way. So we need. Uh, in the EU, we'd have a less targeted approach. We let everyone take initiatives, and there is a lot of room for failure in terms
Mm,
of business failure, like in the case of Northvolt and Stegra in Sweden.
mm. Was about to come to the point that you're calling in from Sweden. Northvolt was at some point the big hope of the European battery economy or the electric vehicle economy. I remember some assets of them were sold. What's the kind of current state? And also, do you see Northvolt case as the I mean, does it? What are kind of the lessons? What could Europe learn from it to actually build something which is, you know, helping us in this global battle for the battery dominance?
Um, um,
Sorry, it was a wide question. I know.
yeah, no, yeah, I agree. No, it's no problem. It's just that I I haven't done the entire analysis of all the aspects of this development, but I'd like to go back to what I said before and say that governments and need to work much more closely with key suppliers of for example, batteries and other um, technologies, components, parts, and and collaborate around the business development. That also, of course, requires a new type of competence in public organizations, in government organizations, the way it has been built in the NASA and the way it's been being built in defense industries, for example, in Sweden, Saab with supplying aircraft to the military. They work much more closely with uh, military procurement officers who around the development issues and around the investment needs and around business development needs, which would be which I believe is the model that needs to be applied in this area as well.
Uh, and is the challenge the fact that we have, I don't know, 32 countries here on this small continent, or
Yes, it is probably making things difficult because
uh,
it's um, favoring uh, some suppliers in some countries would um, can be seen as um, well favoring basically putting money into the growth in economic growth in other countries, and there is a need to balance these investments and financing so that all countries benefit from it.
uh,
But I'm sure it could be done, and it needs to be done in various ways because we can't um, drive development in the way it's done in the EU at present, I think.
the do you think the political scene understands the kind of the risks related to battery sector depending fully on China?
To some extent, I think some politicians are aware of these risks, but it's a big difference between um, some people being aware and the society at large being aware, and these insights need to sink into the minds of people in general in
Mm,
many different ways, so that we understand what types of decisions need to be made in various areas in order for this development to well, to take off and to
mm,
go along a um, more predictive path.
mm. uh, we are kind of seeing solar and also to some extent in the Nordic countries, wind being the key renewable energy sources. Uh, what's your view today on nuclear?
I believe we need nuclear to to cover the base load needs of most countries, and we need to use solar and wind to for peak uh,
Mm,
peak load uh, applications and so on. But we also need battery storage and various um, installations of battery storage facilities in order to be able to cover uh, well, times when we don't have so much wind production and solar
mm.
production.
Or in Northern Europe, exactly, solar is the key thing there. That we're recording this past 5 o'clock and it's very dark already. For all the
Yes.
listeners closer to the equator or closer to sunshine, the um, the nuclear in Sweden hasn't been in fashion, right?
No, we had a ban on nuclear development for several years. It's
Mm,
taken up off again, and it's been coming to the focus of politicians and business leaders as one of the necessary solutions
for the
for
base
the
load.
future. But
Mm,
it's uh, we've had a drop for I suppose 20 years.
mm,
We had a referendum in the 1980s where people decided that we would um, well stop using nuclear and
mm,
close down the nuclear reactors, and we've reduced the number from 12 to 6. But now there are big plans again to
mm,
increase the use of nuclear.
mm. Uh, Makes all the sense to me. The fact use nuclear as the key baseload energy provider in today's world. The challenge is that we have from one side the AI sector demanding the fast growth of energy, and from the other side, any nuclear project in Western Europe probably taking at least 10 plus years, if not longer, right?
Yes.
Is there any solution? What do we do until we have enough nuclear in West Europe? Or, we might never have. So,
Well, it's there are no quick solutions, I think, to this. It all comes down to long range planning, and the countries need to look at the long perspective to make sure that they're that they can cover their uh, power needs for the longer term. But we see examples of failure to do this in Germany, for example. We've seen example of failure in Sweden as well to do this. And we see example of failures to balance power grids and balance the supply of electricity by uh, investing too much in wind and solar at the expense of building a reliable
great.
base load uh, generation sources. So
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
Governments need to take the longer perspective, and they need to start planning towards a situation where we can cover our needs with that various power generation technologies. But there is also this aspect now of nuclear power plants, for example, running towards 40, 50 years of use. And we need to replace some of those probably in order to even maintain our present level of generation. So it's not an easy well, it's not easy to actually see how governments should move forward, because I don't think yet that all the alternatives or all the aspects of this development have been covered.
Absolutely. Maybe one of kind of the quicker fixes is that some of the nuclear stations which are running closer to their aging could be upgraded to the larger stations in a faster timeline than the usual planning process of 10 plus years.
That's being done all the time. We have reduced the number of nuclear power reactors uh, from 12 to 6 in Sweden, but I think we produce more nuclear power today than we
And
did
the 12
when
did.
we had 12 reactors. So, and the same process is going on in other countries as well. So each nuclear reactor generates probably twice as much or more compared to what they did
uh,
um,
30 or
15
40
years
years ago,
ago.
yeah, exactly. The one is nuclear side. Myself, I'm much involved lately in hydrogen technology. Do you see hydrogen playing a role in that equation, and what kind of role?
Yes, well, um, to some extent, but driving a car or driving a vehicle using hydrogen requires more electricity to produce the hydrogen compared to driving a vehicle on using um, electric batteries. So, and you need to have perhaps twice the amount um, of electricity to drive vehicles on hydrogen. And in Europe as a whole, in order to drive all cars, buses, and trucks on electricity using battery electric cars, we'd need half of all the electricity that's generated on an annual basis. If we would drive all our vehicles on hydrogen instead, we'd need all the electricity that's at present generated, and we don't have that type of infrastructure in place so that we could use hydrogen efficiently at that scale.
I mean, yeah, look, it's not the global replacement tomorrow. That's no brainer. I think nobody will think that. At the same time, we are seeing, a lot of Japanese car brands actually bringing hydrogen to the market. BMW announced that in 2028 they will be having the X5, which is a hybrid with hydrogen, and they are kind of coming also to the regular cars. I think on a truck side, it's been more prevalently kind of finding its niche.
Yes, I can't say I've followed hydrogen development in detail, but I'm aware that some companies invest heavily in hydrogen propulsion. For example, Toyota has been uh, focusing on this for quite some time now, and of course with trucks. In the truck sector, hydrogen has its place, as I think hydrogen could reduce the weight of and volume of vehicles compared to using battery technology.
Yeah, I think volume is probably a smaller deal because you kind of need to transport the hydrogen with you anyway, but the weight is definitely a part of the equation.
Yes.
Okay, we kind of touched up on all the major key energy sources. What we should still talk about? The coal, will coal have its renaissance?
I hope not.
We all do
But
hope not. But I have to say that just recently, I'm probably mentioned in this podcast series for a couple of times also already. I read a story how in Southeast Asia they were restarting during heat wave a lot of coal plants because people were using their ACs so extensively, which kind of rather vicious circle, I would say.
Yes. Well, coal is tried and tested technology. Building coal-fired power plants, and it's cost-effective alternative to nuclear power. So, when as we are looking at the cost of building new nuclear reactors, and we're looking at um, the the time frame of doing that and so on, then coal could become a, an area of growth, especially in countries that have large coal reserves. But we've also heard here in Sweden that uh, natural gas powered power plants could become an interim solution here that could work um, while we are waiting to get more nuclear power plants
Mm.
online.
I think it's probably in many other countries also. I think natural gas is one of the key kind of backup supply sources for many countries for the peak demand situations in Europe. It's interesting, this coal discussion or the coal situation where nobody in their right mind would like to burn more coal, but at the same time it could be the solution for many countries to actually, I don't know, power their AI factories to create more jobs on the tech sector, or maybe actually remove the jobs because the AI will be doing the jobs anyway. So
Yes, that's a risk, definitely a risk.
it's an interesting thought. You're looking hopefully into the future of the energy sector.
Yes, I am, but we need, well, a lot of people need to learn more about the energy supply and the opportunities and challenges offered by the different technologies. So it's, we are, energy companies and automotive companies, they are not yet talking to one another, and there is a lack of insight um, among automotive companies in the dynamics of power supply and energy supply in general, because they have never had to worry about whether there's going to be enough diesel or gasoline to power to power
The cars,
or
the fleets, yeah.
or fuel uh, vehicle fleets. So, but now they need to build this knowledge and this understanding, and that hasn't occurred to them yet, it seems, because they are looking at it, and there are um, some attempts to analyze this, um, like the Volvo manager of Volvo truck. He uh, said that driving 1,000 vehicles or 1,000 trucks on electricity could require the generation of one power plant. in if they were all charged in
At the
parallel
same time, yes.
at the same time and at high speed. So, and that is a type of insight, but that needs also to be translated into what does it mean for the charging at this logistics center, where we were looking at a logistics center together with the utility in Helsingborg here in southern Sweden, a logistics center where 80% of all fruit and vegetables are imported to Sweden, and 1,400 trucks come to this logistics area every day. It's not a logistics center. There are 19 logistics centers in this area. So, and in a future situation where a large share of those 1,400 trucks need to be charged at this area or nearby, a lot of uh, great capacity and power will be needed to cover that. And then it becomes quite a large share of those 1,000 trucks that um, the CEO of Volvo hinted at will be charged only in this logistics area. So it's
Basically needs a power plant.
yeah, a small one at least,
Yeah.
or solution. Well, mainly it may be difficult to supply all this electricity from the local power grid. So these big usage areas may need to draw
Yeah,
their power from the national transmission grid instead, or from the
exactly.
regional grid directly.
Exactly, the grid becomes a question. I think that's one of the kind of the big discussion points which has been missed a lot in the electricity discussion, is that our electricity grids are, often built maybe 50 or years ago, and they are aging, and there is no kind of simple way to scale them or cheap way to scale them, to today's requirements. And also they are built during the more, how would I say, less during the more centralized economy time, where a lot of those grids have a lot of single points of failure, like we saw in the Iberian Peninsula case. And we're seeing some number of startups popping out working on the grid issues. We are seeing some technological development, but I think that's probably one of the fields where there is a lot happening over the next coming years.
Yes, grids are mostly built on analog technologies, but they need to become digitized in order to make, for example, vehicle-to-grid solutions applicable and efficient, because utilities need to be able to manage the charging and discharging of individual vehicles, and they need digital grid structures to be able to pinpoint which vehicles to charge, which vehicles to discharge, which vehicles to uh, uh, to be left alone as they are, and then to roll the charging and discharging through various vehicles in order to support the grid and to supply the amounts of electricity that various vehicles will need.
It's the opportunity which has been talked about for decade at least. Is this the kind of the slowness of this analog digital switch, or why it hasn't happened in scale yet? Because I think that's in a way, from the grid perspective, that's the big opportunity to balance the power, already short term.
Yes, well, I suppose it's well. In Sweden, at least, most of the utilities are municipally owned, and that's the case. Well, publicly owned utilities are present in other countries as well, and they need to be careful with their investments, and they need to be because they handle taxpayers' money, and they can't start to invest in a aggressive fashion without knowing that they will be able to get payback on their investments. So there is a well, if we want utilities to invest, and the utilities to governments need to make more funding available that's secure, that's been secured by the government, and they also they need in various ways to reduce the risk of these investments, but it's also difficult because utilities can't invest across the board. They need to know where exactly will the additional capacity be needed. And it's not a matter of like we expand the capacity of the power grid. It's like you expand the capacity in certain places where and you invest in the substations in those locations. So you need to be able to pinpoint in a reliable way exactly where increasing amounts of power will be needed.
But would you agree with my kind of comment that the electric vehicles and the batteries of electrical vehicles are the massive untapped opportunity for our electricity networks?
Yes, perhaps not yet, but they will become a massive untapped opportunity. We don't have enough of them yet, I think, and it's also costly to charge and discharge because you have losses of say 5-7% every time you charge and every time you discharge. So it needs to be done in a carefully, but it's there is potential, and especially in terms of the balancing of grids to support the power grid with additional capacity from batteries will be an probably a more important aspect and a more important source of income for vehicle owners than the actual delivery of the kilowatt hours.
Good. Mats, I think that's a nice and positive note to wrap this discussion. Thanks for your time. Tack.
Thank you very much, Tamo. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks. If you like the show, subscribe and leave a good rating on the podcast platform of your choice. It would mean a world to us.
Hello, folks. Earl Breon here, host of the Responsible Leadership Podcast, part of the Best Business Network on Electricast. If you're looking for a show to bring you some of the best leadership advice from some of the top thought leaders around the globe, this is the show for you. You can find us on all the podcast platforms of choice or on social media by following me, Earl Breon. BREON.
Electricast.
Are you ready to write? Are you ready to become a published writer? Then tune in and take notes, because each week on Simply Write with Polly, we cover writing craft, the ins and outs of running a writing business, and we'll also hear from some big name authors about how they get their work done and published so that we can learn to do it too. Join us each week right here on the Creators Network of Electricast for Simply Write with Polly.
Electricast.